The Street of Our Lady of the Fields by Robert W. Chambers.
Et tous les jours passés dans la tristesse nous sont comptés comme des jours heureux.
1. The street is not fashionable, neither is it shabby. It is a pariah among streets, a street without a quarter. It is generally understood to lie outside the pale of the aristocratic Avenue de l'Observatoire. The students of the Montparnasse quarter consider it swell, and will have none of it. The Latin quarter, from the Luxembourg, its northern frontier, sneers at its respectability and regards with disfavour the correctly costumed students who haunt it. Few strangers go into it. At times, however, the Latin quarter students use it as a thoroughfare between the Rue de Rennes and the Bullier, but except for that and the weekly afternoon visits of parents and guardians to the convent near the Rue Vavin, the Street of Our Lady of the Fields is as quiet as a Passy boulevard. Perhaps the most respectable portion lies between the Rue de la Grande Chaumière and the Rue Vavin. At least this was the conclusion arrived at by the Reverend Joel Byram as he rambled through it with Hastings in charge. To Hastings the street looked pleasant in the bright June weather, and he had begun to hope for its selection when the Reverend Byram shied violently at the cross on the convent opposite. "Jesuits," he muttered. "Well," said Hastings wearily, "I imagine we won't find anything better. You say yourself that vice is triumphant in Paris, and it seems to me that in every street we find Jesuits or something worse." After a moment he repeated, "or something worse," which of course I would not notice except for your kindness in warning me. Dr. Byram sucked in his lips and looked about him. He was impressed by the evident respectability of the surroundings. Then, frowning at the convent, he took Hastings' arm and shuffled across the street to an iron gateway which bore the number 201 BIS, painted in white on a blue ground. Below this was a notice printed in English. 1. For porter, please oppress once. 2. For servant, please oppress twice. 3. For parlour, please oppress thrice. Hastings touched the electric button 3 times, and they were ushered through the garden and into the parlour by a trim maid. The dining-room door just beyond was open, and from the table in plain view, a stout woman hastily arose and came toward them. Hastings caught a glimpse of a young man with a big head and several snuffy old gentlemen at breakfast before the door closed and the stout woman waddled into the room, bringing with her an aroma of coffee and a black poodle. "It is a plaisir to you receive," she cried. "Monsieur is English, no? American? Of course. My pension it is for Americans surtout. Here all speak English, c'est-à-dire the personnel. The servant do speak, plus ou moins, a little. I am happy to have you comme pensionnaires." "Madame," began Dr. Byram, but was cut short again. "Ah, yes, I know. Ah, mon Dieu. You do not speak French, but you have come to learn. My husband does speak French with the pensionnaires. We have at the moment a family Americaine who learn of my husband French." Here the poodle growled at Dr. Byram and was promptly cuffed by his mistress. "Veux-tu?" she cried with a slap. "Veux-tu? Oh, le vilain! Oh, le vilain!" "Mais, madame," said Hastings, smiling, "il n'a pas l'air très féroce." The poodle fled, and his mistress cried, "Ah, the accent charming! He does speak already French like a Parisian young gentleman." Then Dr. Byram managed to get in a word or two and gathered more or less information in regard to prices. "It is a pension serio. My clientèle is of the best. Indeed, a pension de famille where one is at home. Then they went upstairs to examine Hastings' future quarters, test the bed springs and arrange for the weekly towel allowance. Dr. Byram appeared satisfied. Madame Marotte accompanied them to the door and rang for the maid, but as Hastings stepped out into the gravel walk, his guide and mentor paused a moment and fixed Madame with his watery eyes. "You understand," he said, "that he is a youth of most careful bringing up, and his character and morals are without a stain. He is young and has never been abroad, never even seen a large city, and his parents have requested me, as an old family friend living in Paris, to see that he is placed under good influences. He is to study art, but on no account would his parents wish him to live in the Latin Quarter if they knew of the immorality which is rife there." A sound like the click of a latch interrupted him, and he raised his eyes, but not in time to see the maid slap the big-headed young man behind the parlour door. Madame coughed, cast a deadly glance behind her, and then beamed on Dr. Byram. "It is well that he come here. The pension more serious, il n'en existe pas, et it is not any," she announced with conviction. So, as there was nothing more to add, Dr. Byram joined Hastings at the gate. "I trust," he said, eyeing the convent, "that you will make no acquaintances among Jesuits." Hastings looked at the convent until a pretty girl passed before the grey facade, and then he looked at her. A young fellow with a paint-box and canvas came swinging along, stopped before the pretty girl, said something during a brief but vigorous handshake at which they both laughed, and he went his way, calling back, "À demain, Valentine!" As in the same breath she cried, "À demain!" Valentine, thought Hastings, what a quaint name. And he started to follow the Reverend Joel Byram, who was shuffling toward the nearest tramway station.